Pokemon X and Y, the game that everybody seems to have forgotten about. Well, today I'm here to bring it back with an amazing ROM hack called Ancestral X that works a lot like Radical Red, making a ton of battles really hard, but in return you also get every single encounter possible in the game, meaning that we'll be able to complete the Pokedex. And when I heard that, I knew I had to try out 100 hours of Pokemon Ancestral X. But that's not all that Ancestral X brings. There is a ton of quality of life improvements like with any ROM hack, and on top of that, a ton of Pokemon have had stat changes, type changes, and even moveset changes. So for most of us, this will be an entire new experience. Since we'll be doing 100 hours on this game, I have obviously made another checklist, and this one is going to consist of getting an entire team to a level 100, capture a full team of shiny Pokemon because the shiny odds have also been improved to 1 in 512. Obviously, I want to complete the main storyline, which means beating the champion and after that AZ, but this will be way harder than in regular X and Y. And lastly, I want to buy a beautiful outfit from the exclusive clothes store in Lumio City, and those can get very expensive. So now that you know our goal and direction of the video, I'm going to ask for one more thing, and that is, what's your favorite Generation 6 Pokemon? Mine's the big Jurassic boy Tyrantrum. I mean, even its shiny is absolutely out of this world. And with all of that being said, let's jump right into our 100 hours of Pokemon Ancestral X. And if you love Pokemon, you're absolutely going to love the sponsor of today's video, Honkai Star Rail. This amazing game was made by Hoyoverse, the same people that worked on Genshin Impact. It works with a turn-based combat system which I personally love and makes me feel right at home. They invite you to assemble a team of extraordinary heroes, each with their own abilities and strengths, and on top of that, basic attacks and skills. And every character also has an ultimate attack that will do huge damage to your opponents. With over 20 characters to choose from, you'll definitely find someone that suits your playstyle. Personally, I'm a very big fan of the animations. I mean, who doesn't love the sight of your enemy getting obliterated by a space laser? Not only that, the characters themselves have never looked any better, and they're actually written very well with compelling backstories and personalities that will make you chuckle up at times. They just released their 1.3 version update where you can play through the entire epilogue story of Xianxiao Luofu. Yeah, I probably just totally butchered that name. Oh well, but this storyline will introduce you to a new character called Fuchs Chuan, and she's a real team player that loves her friends, as she can take incoming damage away from your teammates and reduce it as well. But will that be enough to get her a dream promotion to General of the Luofu? That's going to be something you're going to have to find out yourself. It doesn't matter if you want to play it on your PC or your mobile device, because in the future it is also coming to PS5. The graphics will absolutely look out of this world, just like the game itself, as you travel through the universe with a train that rides along the Star Rail. That's the name of the game! And you have so much to do in this universe. There's daily activities you can complete, achievements and missions on top of your regular storyline. And if that isn't enough, you might be enthralled by their very own roguelike mode called the Simulated Universe. So what are you even waiting for? The next Astral Express? Well, jump aboard right now and try out the new and exciting 1.3 update and Fushuan by downloading Honkai Star Rail from the link in the description or pinned comment. And if you decide to do so, make sure to use the promo code on screen right now to get 50 free Stellar Jades. A huge thank you to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring this video, and let's get right back to our 100 hours. We get greeted by Professor Sycamore and get an entire monologue of how the region works. That made me pretty sick of him already. We pick our main character and decide to go with the blonde guy with the blue eyes, even though that's like the opposite of me. And then we get thrown into our very own bed and get woken up by a rabbit fletchling. After that shocking first experience, we head downstairs and talk to our mother, who immediately tells me to go back up and put on some clothes. After that, we can head outside and meet up with Shauna and Serena, and I want to say that these two are probably the least annoying out of all the rivals in this game. They also added some invisible patches of grass in the starting area to get some more encounters before the first gym, and when you head in there without a Pokemon, this happens. Even though we have the most overpowered Bulbasaur of all time, this cursed boy sends us back to our bed, so let's just go and pick up our starter instead. But first, we have to do something way more important: pick our nickname. And I decided to go with DJ Khaled's favorite.
I call it a chandelier.
After that, we pick our actual starter, and I decided to go with my least favorite one, Fennekin, just because I never really pick it. With that out of the way, we receive our Pokedex and have our very first rival battle against Shauna, and after setting fire to her Chespin, she then ran home crying. We went to our very own home, and our mother thought that we had a love letter from someone. But since we're based and red-pilled, we don't care about that. Go outside, give our Rhyhorn one last hug, and head out into the world of Pokemon. First, I go to the local shop to pick up some Cheras balls, which I needed to do a side quest with a scientist that was getting harassed by a Swablu. And this is where we catch our very first Pokemon. But it didn't take long for me to head back to Vanderbilt town and head into the invisible grass to capture a ton more encounters like Geodude, Magby, Krabby, and Cherubi, but many more, as well as horde encounters. But what are horde encounters exactly? Well, for those of you that have never played Pokemon X and Y, it's a newly introduced feature where you encounter 5 Pokemon, but they will be lower leveled than the ones on the actual route. A lot of people use these for shiny hunting, but I'll be using them to capture a ton of very specific Pokemon, like in this case, Zelf, Mesprit, and Uxie. Almost every route will have special horde encounters, as you can see from the documentation right here, but the legendaries and mythicals you can find in these will appear way less often, as all of the legendary encounters in this game will only have a 1 to 5% encounter rate. But more on that later, because now we're going to be focusing on the regular ones. Every round will have between 8 and 10 encounters per grass patch, so after grabbing my very first 10 over here, I headed over to route number 1, where I captured a ton of the early route encounters like Bunnelby, Kricketot, Zigzagoon, and a horde encounter Darumaka that I killed because I used rollout with my Geodude and he wouldn't stop. Great, but we'll come back for them later. First, let's do the catching tutorial and fight our very first trainer. And guess what happened? Since it is a difficulty ROM hack, they made it difficult, and I lost against the Bunnelby with Bulldoze. Next time I came back prepared and smacked him around, which made me able to enter the nearby forest. The forest is a great way to grind up because Shauna will follow you and heal you up when necessary, which in the end allowed me to capture the ugliest monkey trio that you've ever seen. I mean, you're not going to tell me anybody likes these. I also grabbed the Larvesta from a horde encounter, all 3 of the Johto starters because they're also a horde encounter here, and the nice little Trapinch who's now a bug ground type, which means Flygon has finally lived up to its appearance. And remember that we also have to capture 6 shiny Pokemon. Well, luckily for me, the first one I ran into was in this forest, and it turned out to be a Wurmple. A Pokemon I personally am not the biggest fan of, but I think its shiny is really beautiful. Let's just hope it doesn't turn into Dustox because that's going to totally ruin him. Me and the squad finally get out of the forest and enter route number 2, where they give me the best newly introduced item, the PC box. This is just a new key item that allows you to open up your PC and change your team around from anywhere on the map, which makes backtracking to the Pokemon Center basically obsolete. So that's very nice. Another really nice item that we got here was an old rod, unlocking some water encounters for us as we grab a Barboach and a Corphish here. As a master Pokemon trainer, I then lost more battles because you have to lose before you can eventually become the best. And on our way back to the forest, I ran into some starter encounters and grabbed the 3 Kanto starters, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. And in the forest, I ran into a horde of Celebes, and just when I was about to weaken the last one with Scratch, I get a critical hit and kill it. But don't worry, because at the end of the game, we're going to go back through all of these routes and do all of the horde encounters once we get access to Honey or Sweet Send, because those will allow us to get a horde encounter every single time. Back on route 2, I grabbed the 3 Hoenn starters and my favorite Pokemon of all time, Mudkip, as well as a couple of Fodder Pokemon. Oh, and the Pokemon with the best anime cry ever. I then finally reached Santaloon City, where I take a look at my cheap-ass clothes and just hope that at the end of this, I will finally be dripped out. I also traded away one of my regular Wurmples for a Numel, which is going to make the first gym a bit easier. And because we need to be prepared for the first gym, I evolved like almost every single one of my team members. I pushed over a skater, stole her skates, and now we look absolutely radical, dude. We then drop into our very first gym, and that is the immediate thing I notice about X and Y. Their gym design is peak Pokemon. I honestly think they have the best in the series. After climbing the bubbly spider webs, we eventually reach Viola and her bug types. her bugs have received a ton of buffs. But that doesn't mean it's hard to take down, as Wartortle takes care of Dwebble with water pulses, Swablu counters Surskit even though it's able to set up a rain dance, so that eventually her Vivillon can come in and spam Hurricane and never miss. Despite the rain being up, I still incinerate Swadloon, it breaks in while Swablu deals with Larvesta and also puts Joltik to sleep with Sing so that Kalava can come in and clean it up. The last Pokemon, Vivillon, is able to Psybeam 3 of my Pokemon, taking them all down until Vesuvius comes out and scorches it to finally get me the win and my very first gym badge. With around 7.5 hours of gameplay in already. Believe me, we'll be spending a lot of time between gyms to capture all the Pokemon, which might mean that we won't be able to complete every challenge on our list. On Route 22, we capture every Pokemon available except for some of the Horde encounters, notable one here being Cresselia. Since we now have the Bug Badge, we also get the EXP share as a reward, and on Route 4 we find another new mechanic. Flowers. It's not really a new feature per se, because they work the same as grass patches, run into them and encounter Pokemon. But there will be different colors of flowers and each one will have separate encounters, meaning that if you have flowers on your route, you're obviously going to spend way more time there. Here I captured notably a couple of baby Pokemon, but the main thing I captured was my very first legendary Shaymin. Or should I say mythical, because I know a lot of you can get triggered about that. You know what, go spam the comments about it anyway. We might need them for the algorithm. I ended off this route by capturing 2 Raltses so that I could eventually get Gardevoir and Gallade. I then proceeded to evolve my Mudkip into Marshtomp and Lotad into Lombre before finally reaching Lumiose City. The beautiful city that resembles Paris and serves as the main hub of the game. First we go to the Professor to pick up our starter Pokemon. You can choose between Marshtomp, Combuskin, and Grovyle here, and since I already have 2 of them, I decided to go with Grovyle, which everybody loves, all because of the Mystery Dungeon games. And if you haven't played them, go pause this video right now and play it. It's so good. Professor Sycamore then goes on to explain more about Mega Evolution, but the only thing I really want to mention is that every single Mega Pokemon is now in X and Y, meaning that you can use all of the Oras ones as well, and that's absolutely killer. Upon going downstairs, we meet the biggest man in the entire Pokemon universe, Lysander, and I've sort of got a feeling that this guy really enjoys flares. Might just be a hunch. Let's head out of here and go to route number 5, where we get ambushed by the Aura Pokemon Lucario. We give him a kick with our roller skates and go to the local skate park to show off our moves. And after seeing this, I could only think of one thing: rocket power. So with that nostalgia trip out of the way, let's capture some more encounters. Luckily for me, all of the encounters on this route had a 10% encounter chance, and they were only divided by purple flowers and regular grass. And as I've said earlier, I'm going to come back for Victini's Horde encounter later. And before we reach the next town, we have to get our ass beat by Tierno, because his team upgraded from a regular Corphish to this. While most of his team was pretty easy to deal with, his Howlucha tore me a new one. It's just a little bit too overpowered to face this early in a run, and I wasn't really prepared for it, so I got sent back to the Pokemon Center and I decided to check out the shop there. As it turns out, I have unlocked a ton of items that will make me my life easier. Rare candies for only 10 Pokebucks, max elixirs, and so much more, which will make evolving Pokemon a lot easier because I don't have to grind. Eventually I returned, and this time Troy was able to take down Hawlucha with Psybeam, and the other threat, Crawdaunt, really got destroyed by energy balls from Shaymin, allowing me to continue to Camphor Town, where we check out the local castle and play Farming Simulator 2019. Our roads gets blocked by the usual Snorlax, so we have to make a stop at the Perfume Palace, but before we do that, we have to capture a ton of Pokemon on Route 6, where we find another type of encounter, namely Rustling Bushes. Luckily, there's only really one thing I need from here, and that's a Venipede, because the rest of the Pokemon I can capture somewhere else. Inside of the tall grass, however, I found a 5% Audino, as well as Honedge, Kadabra, and many others. But this is also the first route with a 1% encounter, and here it is, Virizion. While I was able to find it, it took me multiple hours, because 1% encounter chances can happen only 1% of the time, meaning that you could either be here for like 10 minutes or 2 hours, which is going to be dent into our time constraint. However, I pushed through and captured my first of the 3 Swords of Justice. Entered the Perfume Palace by paying a fee, I mean, wouldn't you do the same if someone wanted to enter your house? And chased after a dog together with Shauna. As a reward, we get to watch some fireworks and have a moment together. But since we're a Sigma male, we leave her behind, steal the Pokeflute, and wake up the Snorlax. Normally, this fatty gets knocked out, but this time we're going to actually capture him. This allows us to go to route number 7, where we have 3 separate encounter tables, regular grass and 2 flower patches. Some of the Pokemon here are really easy to capture because all of them have 30 or 20% encounter chances, while others like Smeargle and stuff only have a 10% encounter chance. We still grabbed everything and headed over to Connection Cave, and this is where my longest hunt ever came. I was doing pretty well capturing Zubats, Larvitars, Axews, and everything else in the encounter table, but obviously the 1% here was Terrakion, and through my entire playthrough, this guy was the biggest pain in the ASS. He took me a full 5 hours to show up, but before we even captured him, I first ran into another shiny, number 2 of the run, and luckily we can replace our starter with this one, a beautiful gray Fennekin. Only 4 more to go, so we also grab the stupid Terrakion from here and head outside. Here we grab some very useful encounters like Bagon, Skarmory, and Absol. We're approaching Ambra Town, and on the way there we evolved our Graveler into Golem and Turtwig into Groddle. And in the town themselves there's a fossil revival area, so we go there to progress the story. One of their scientists has gone to a nearby cave to research for fossils, and he hasn't been back for a while, so we have to go and check him out. On our way there we grab our very first right Pokemon, Rhyhorn, and as you walk over the rubble with him, you can actually encounter Pokemon. But nothing here was even under 10%, so this was an easy clear. What wasn't that easy of a clear though was Glittering Cave. You see, here you don't just run around to get your encounters, you actually have to run into these black spots and then a Pokemon will pop out. I found out that running into encounters here goes way slower than in any other area. And guess what I had to get here? A 5% Druddigon, 4% Aerodactyl, and 1% Cobalion. And you're not going to believe this, but this only took me like 2 hours, which is way less than what I had to do for Terrakion. So I was really happy that I could go and challenge my very first team Flaregrunt after this. This entire cave seems to be infested with them, so we just cleared them out together with Serena, find the scientist who has found 2 fossils, and he lets me choose one of them. I obviously go for the superior god, the Jaw fossil. I'm sorry Helix, I won't be praising you anymore. So then we go on to revive it and capture a couple of raw encounters on our way to Sillage City. Because of all the XP for capturing you get in this game, my Groddle evolved into Torterra, which is going to be great since the next gym leader is rock type. And luckily Marshtomp also evolves into Swampert, which will make it even easier. We run into the gym leader Grant on our way to his gym, and he hands me the HM for strength, which won't be needed all that much in this playthrough. We then do a lot of wall climbing and our hands are now full of blisters. But we bite through the pain anyway and challenge Grant. I was so confident that we would win this gym fight that I only went in with 3 Pokemon because the rest of them fainted throughout the entire gym. And I was right, I only needed Terrakion's rock climbs, Aqua Jets and waterfalls, and Golem's earthquakes to win. We even sent this Tyrantrum 100 million years back in time. With our second gym badge in hand, we check in at 25 hours already just because of those 1% encounters. Luckily, God Tyrantrum smiles upon us and hands me the 1% Route 10 encounters within an hour and a half of playtime. Raikou and Zapdos are mine. Run into Team Flare again, and this grunt is named Frankie, which I just found pretty funny. Obviously, no offense if that's your real name. He leads me to Geosenge Town and then disappears into nothingness. It's absolutely not like there's a hidden door behind this pile of rocks, believe me. Let's just leave the area and get out of here. Route 11 was a very easy one with only 10% encounters and no real horde encounters that I needed, but a notable one being Sock on these nuts. Onto Reflection Cave. Reflection Cave is where I found out that once you enter a cave and it has multiple floors, you're going to have different encounters on every single floor. For example, here I had to get Meloetta and Diancie just because they spawn in different areas, which was once again a lot of time wasted. Luckily for me, the other encounters were all really easy to get. Even the ceiling encounters, which jump out at you just like the bush encounters, were very easy for me to get as I added Ferroseed and Metang to my Pokedex total. We eventually make it out of Reflection Cave, and since our next opponent will be Karina, we know that we have to prepare for all of her fighting types, so I evolve my Charmeleon into Charizard and Staravia into Staraptor. So we head over to the Tower of Mastery and worship the statue of Mega Lucario. We also find the Mega Evolution Guru, who wants to hand me a Mega Stone, but first needs me to prove myself in a Pokemon battle. Luckily, Serena is around too, and she is willing to be my victim. She had a very decent team, but the main threat was a Protein Greninja that I honestly just swept away very quickly with an Earthquake and an Aqua Jet from Swampert, and from there, the battle was actually not too hard. So we unlock Mega Evolution and the ability to go into Karina's gym, hit some nice kickflips, and eventually end up at the middle to challenge her. Oh yeah, and I added my shiny Delphox to the team too because it definitely needed some action. Her first Pokemon is a Zangoose, who is now a normal fighting type, so we delete that with an easy Psychic from Delphox. My newly acquired Hawlucha is then able to bounce on Hitmontop and Medicham to bring out Poliwrath. Despite it being bulky and surviving a bounce, it goes down to the second. Lucario survives a high jump kick with its Focus Sash, but sets up a nasty plot, causing me to take it out the turn after, and Pangoro also gets kicked in the face for a basically an Hawlucha sweep. Third gym badge acquired, definitely the easiest of the three. We also steal Karina's Lucario and manage to flee before the cops were onto us. Serena even rewards me with DHM for Surf, unlocking a lot more Pokemon for us. Then we go to round 12, and here we have so many encounters. Luckily, most of them are Surf, Rod, and Rock Smash encounters, which we don't need many of. First, we check the regular grass, grab a Tauros here, Electabuzz, and obviously all the rest. Our 1% encounter here, however, was Volcanion, which is going to be a crucial team member because of its very good typing and the ability Water Absorb. The yellow flowers, we find our favorite bug boy, Heracross, and our 1% encounter here is going to be a Keldeo. And since I've never seen the Swords of Justice movie, I'm just going to yeet it out of here. And with this round out of the way, I can safely say that we're at 35 hours, so I'd say we're definitely on track. We then reach Coom City. Not really, it's actually Coumarine. And get yelled at by a shop owner, but luckily we went to check it out and saw that he sold every single evolutionary stone. So we pick up enough of every single one of them, and then go to the local train station where we see the professor hooking up with the champion. I would be jealous, but then I remembered that she's the second worst champion just behind Gita. We then reach the actual Coumarine City, where the 4th gym is located, but just before you can enter it, you have to fight your rival Serena once more. She changed up her team a little bit, adding a Jellicent that's really bulky, but really nothing that my Honchkrow couldn't deal with. Greninja was also a pain, but Hawlucha was able to pound it into the ground, and she also added a Mega Altaria to her team, but with Muk's poison jabs. We step over this roadblock rather quickly and enter Sergio Ramos's gym. After we slinger through it like we're Tarzan, we reach the top of the treehouse, and Ramos here was ready to slide tackle me, but we dribbled right past him and entered the battle. And it went something like this. We then slide our way into Azure Bay, and in the water there, I have a Kyogre to find. Shouldn't be too hard to spot, I mean, it's literally one of the biggest creatures on Earth. But first we run into something even more intriguing. Our third shiny Pokemon, Mantine, who changes to a dark blue, which I absolutely adore. The god of the sea showed his face shortly after, and after trapping it in a teeny tiny ball, I traveled to the Sea Spirit's Den. Beautiful place where the past comes to life. And if you don't know what that means, you can capture every single fossil Pokemon here. Since they all have the same encounter rate, this was really easy, which means we can head straight to the desert, which is also known as Route 13, and obviously in the desert you're going to have desert-like Pokemon like Cacturne, Maractus, Vibrava, but the main boy here was Groudon, the 1% encounter, which came after about 40 minutes of looking, so really not all that bad. You look behind the rock and find the power plant pass, and upon heading in there, we also find out that it's infested with Team Flare Grunts. Not only that, you can even capture Pokemon in the power plant. And if you would think that you could capture electric types in the power plant, you were right, but also wrong, because there's also a Pyroar in here, and I have no idea why this is its habitat. It must have just wandered in through the door, as it came from the desert. Luckily, the power plant had 0 1% encounters, so we could just head through it easily and go to the back of it, where we see Team Flare kicking it because they're trying to sabotage it. We tell them to take their dirty hands off that generator, and with the perfect combo of my weather duo, they became a piece of cake that I ate. Those two stupid people with masks that I always forget the name of also show up, but they're just here to give me some full restores. I guess they were a little late to the party and missed out on the cake. So after that, I went back to Lumio City. On the way there, I helped the homeless man and went to look at the Eiffel Tower as it got put ablaze. Or they just put some lights on it. I do think it's really cool that they turned the Eiffel Tower of all things into a gym, and it was even cooler to see that the inside is the same as Buzz the game. So I built my team and went to challenge Clement. I decided to lead off with Maractus and Groudon because Maractus is actually a grass ground type. And since their first two Pokemon, Rotom Wash and Galvantula, get heat crashed and Giga drained, they then decide to bring out Electros and Electivire. I then used a Spiky Shield and an Earthquake from Groudon to take down the Electivire to bring out his Thundurus. After stopping 2 times and eventually bringing in Typhlosion, Groudon was able to take out Thundurus with Heat Crash, and the Electros went down too. The final Pokemon was Mega Manectric, and with the Fire Ground type Typhlosion and Dugtrio on my side, this became a one-sided battle. We claim our Voltage badge and go to Lysander's Cafe, and why do I feel like the staff is looking at me very, very creepy? So because I was feeling uneasy, I decided to leave and go back on my journey. We're not even 5 steps in and we get put to a halt already on Route 14. It's that one rival that nobody knows the name of, and Serena. Serena just wants what Serena wants, and that's a battle, so we'll give it to her. Despite changing up her team quite a bit, she wasn't even harder to take down than regular. I mean, yeah, the added Mamoswine, Cobalion, and Mega Absol were kind of a pain in the ass, but with my very own powerhouses, Shaman, Raikou, and Diancie, still just marched through her. And while we were marching, we feel something very dirty on our leg. It's a swamp. Here we have, once again, multiple patches where we can get stuff in the swamp itself, meaning that if you walk on the water, you will encounter Pokemon, and in the grass itself too. A ton of poison types were available here, like Toxicroak, Skuntank, Drapion, and even Gengar. And there was no 1% encounter, which made me very happy, and even the 5% encounter Sliggoo I wasn't going to grab, because I could get it at a higher encounter rate somewhere else. So we made our way through the swamp and eventually stumbled upon the scary story man. And he told me that if I were to continue on this path, I would turn into a Discord moderator. And that made me terrified. Speaking of Discord, you should join mine. Links in the description. I'm really glad they put a swamp just in front of this next town because the gym leader is a fairy type master. So I decided to craft a team of poison and steel types to take her down. She started out with a Milotic, which is now Water Fairy, and an Audino, so I just cross poisoned and sludge bombed it to take it out and bring out Diancie. I then double up on the Milotic once again with sludge bomb and cross poison to take it out, but Drapion also falls, so I bring in Skarmory. Sylveon comes in and I decide to Destiny Bond with Gengar to finish it off at the end of the turn, and also hit the Diancie with an Iron Head from Skarmory. Togekiss and Weezing hit the field. I then take out Diancie. Mega Mawile comes in. I finish off Togekiss shortly after, and Klinklang shift gears his way through this Mega Mouth. I then try to leave town, but I get stopped by Team Flare as they've taken over the local Pokeball factory. You know, why not? I do think it's really cool that you finally get to see a Pokeball factory, because before this, they just kind of spawn out of thin air. So we take a ride through the factory. And reach the office of the director, where we beat up some more Team Flare admins without names, which just doesn't make any sense because previously the admins were so important and really made the evil team feel alive. It almost feels like if you take away their names, you take away the quality of the evil team. After we learned that, we left the Pokeball company with a Master Ball and did every single evolution known to man. Because I might not have included this, but I captured every single Eevee needed to grab these beautiful boys and girls. Route 15 was kinda sus, but besides that there was only one 1% encounter, and that was Genesect, which did take about 2 hours and a half to show up, but we do have it now. Although some people might say that this is actually a modified Kabutops. While fishing and surfing, I grab a Magikarp, Gyarados, Groudon, and Mirror B's minion, Ludicolo. Shortly after, I made my way to the Lost Hotel, which has multiple sections to it. There were some very notable Pokemon here like Porygon 2, Shiny Musharna, and the legendary encounter Hoopa. Oh yeah, Shiny Musharna. that's our 4th one. Only 2 more to go. And we have completed 1 of our challenges. In the Lost Hotel, you also have trash cans that harbor Pokemon, and in order to get all of these, you need to keep on exiting and entering to room, wait till the trash can is shaking, and then talk to it. And then you have a very small chance of a Pokemon appearing, an even smaller chance of a legendary popping out. So I wasn't going to do this now, I was going to do this at the end of my journey. I then pushed the strength boulder out of the way, which is only one of the 2 times you have to use strength in this game to unlock Route 16. Here we only have to search in the tall grass and yellow flowers, getting Pokemon like Scyther and Trevenant, but most notably 2 Weather Trio Pokemon, Tornadus and Thundurus. Thundurus is also here, but he's available in Hordes, so we'll look for him later. But the most notable thing on this route was by far this beautiful shiny Sigilyph. I actually really like shiny Sigilyph. I don't think the colors mix as well as with the normal Sigilyph, but this is definitely a nice find. And you're probably wondering how many hours I'm in right now. Well, we're currently sitting at a nice 57 hours and a half. So we definitely still got a ways to go. And our journey's next destination was the Frost Cavern, which has a lot of floors, but luckily only 2 1% encounters, being Kyurem and Regice. I also had to get a couple of water encounters here like Celio, Dugong, and Cloyster. Well, Christmas also came early as I found a Delibird, Sneasel, and a long time after that, about an hour and a half actually, a Kyurem as well. Eventually we make our way to the end of the cave where Team Flare is harassing an Abomasnow. And I think we know why, it's because it's holding an Abomasnowite. So we light him up and shoot him down together with Hawlucha. And as a great thanks, the Abomasnow gives me his Mega Stone, which actually doesn't matter because did you know that this game has a universal Mega Stone, which is compatible with every single Mega? Isn't that nice? But we aren't done here in the Frost Cavern. We have a couple more encounters to get through, like Beartic, a shiny Snover, which is beautiful. I absolutely love the blue coloring on its little hat, but I do have to say that both of its evolutions are a little underwhelming, so I think I'm going to keep it as this little guy. And that completes our very first check mark as well, 6 out of 6 shinies. Let's go. And about an hour later, we run into the 1% encounter Regice to end off our journey in Frost Cavern, meaning that we can get even colder by going to Route 17 and riding on a Mamoswine's back through the big piles of snow. Most of the Pokemon here we already have, except for Weavile and Articuno, the second of the 3 legendary birds. This was actually one of the quickest routes, as Articuno showed up only after about 6 minutes. After evolving our Armora into Aurorus, we reach Anastar City. And just before we go and challenge the 7th gym, Serena is ready for another battle. She changed a couple of team members around to Leafeon, Latias, and Mega Lopunny, which honestly made her team worse than the last time we faced her. So with an Aeroblast of a Shaman that can turn into its flying type form, we Aeroblast her out of the city. Let's hope we don't see her again. To take on the next gym, we had to walk through space and time in a different universe just to reach Olympia, which made me think of the Roman Empire for the second time this week. I had a Psychic type wrecking team as I started out with Acrobatics, Scyther on her Gallade, and Fake Out on her Sigilyph so that she could bring out Victini, who took a Night Slash like a champ while we took out its team member, but then it decided to scourge both of my Pokemon as they're weak to fire. She brings in Hypno and I go for Gengar and Aegislash, but both of them can basically do nothing against this combo, so it's Mega Absol and High Dragon's time to shine. With the Sucker Punch and the Dark Pulse, both of her Pokemon go down, and then the last 2 came in, Metagross and Mega Alakazam. A really good duo, but is it as good as mine? The short answer, no. 7 badge is mine. We go outside and Serena is back, sadly enough. But we then get a call from the boy, who says that he's going to destroy the world with a space laser because he's mad at humanity. So guess who has to stop him? Not us, because it's time to take some sightseeing pictures with this beautiful pink crystal. Just kidding, I'll step in. I head back to Lumio City and totally forgot where the red cafe was where his base is. So after navigating the city for about half an hour, I finally found it and beat up his waiters because the last time I was here they looked at me funny. Then showed me that the bookcase was fake, and this led me to his evil hideout, and upon entering it we get ambushed by the man himself. But I'm actually going to skip over this battle since we still have to battle him 2 times in like the next 5 minutes, so I guess I'll just have to show you one of those ones. He sends me through his maze of spinning and makes me beat up all of his admins, until we eventually get to the cave where Mr. Homeless Man is locked up. He tells me his story about how his Floette left him because he wanted to destroy every living being because there was a Pokemon war or something. This guy's very old. I think he is kind of delusional, so I don't believe him. Leave him alone and meet up with Lysander and Dr. Doom. They tell me that if I can defeat Dr. Doom in a battle, I get to press a button, and if I pick the right one, they won't blow up the world. I've always been a gambling man, so let's spin that roulette. Believe it or not, but this was a super easy battle despite him having a Mega Sharpedo and a Hoopa. I was still able to win this gamble and press the button, which turned out to be the right one. But just like casinos do, they screwed me anyway and got the weapon ready to strike. So we headed over to it, but Frankie wanted his revenge, but I told him, man, get out of the way, I'm here to save your life. And he understood. So he let me through into their actual base. Here is where we have to fight Lysander once more, and without much effort I plow through him. I promise I will show his last fight. That's when Serena joins me and we get access to the lower parts of the lab where the weapon's core is stored. On our way over there, we beat up another pair of admins, and as we finally reach the room of the core of the weapon, you can guess it, there is even more admins waiting for us. 4 battles later, and we can finally sabotage the weapon, and that's when Xerneas is finally free and we get a chance to capture him. Since I don't really want to waste my Master Ball yet, I just capture it in a regular ball, and that makes Lysander go absolutely bonkers. He even put on this crazy machine that I don't know the purpose of, and then attacks me once again for our final showdown. He starts out with a Ferrothorn that survives an overheat from my Volcanion and sets up a layer of spikes. Not that that really matters because we just take it out the next turn. Kyogre drowns out Emboar as Dragonite gets crushed by Icicle Crash from Weavile. Yveltal and Nidoqueen also get crushed by Weavile's Icicle Crashes, but only because I literally got 2 flinches in a row. His last Pokemon was Mega Gyarados, so I swapped in Ferrothorn and got really lucky here. I hit a power hit and then was able to use 3 spiky shields in a row, and because of that spiky shield damage, Gyarados eventually went down, and that ends off Lysander. Thinking that we saved the world, we get super happy, but Lysander then shouts to his team to shoot the ultimate weapon anyway, because as it turns out, it's already gathered enough power. And that's it. The planet has exploded, our mission is gone, and everything turns to black. Psych, everything fails because everything that Team Flare does is absolute. So with that very anticlimactic ending, we move over to Route 18. Here we have 2 more sets of encounters to go through, regular grass and red flowers. First off, in the regular grass, we get a couple of cool encounters like Nidoking, but also Ho-Oh just showed up after like a minute. Definitely the fastest 1% we've gotten in this entire run. So we added to the team. Before we search for the red flowers to find Rayquaza, we actually end up in Terminus Cave. We get so many cool encounters, Salamence, Garchomp, and Flygon, and luckily for us, all of these were 10% encounters, but there is once again 3 legendaries we got here, which took me more than 3 hours to get, which is still less than Terrakion, by the way. So I threw my Master Ball at Regirock and captured Heatran and Registeel too. Go back outside to find the red flowers and pick up our Sky God Rayquaza. This leaves us at 78 hours and a half. We're really closing in on that endgame. But we don't have that many routes left to go, so let's keep on powering through. In Kuriway Town, we do the only double battle that I've honestly run into in this entire ROM hack, and that's against Sycamore and his team of starters. And while starter Pokemon might be super cool and good on their own, they don't have the best team synergy, so we just bulldoze through them. After the battle, he thanks me for saving the world and also wishes me luck in my very last few endeavors. The first one being Route 19, and here we have 3 sections that we have to get Pokemon in, and all 3 of them have a 1% encounter. The swamp I already have most Pokemon, so I just grab a Gliscor and all the rest that I need, and as my encounter here, I could just surf on the water and encounter a Lugia. In the purple flowers, we grab a Horde encounter, a Escavalier, and a Selgor, but also a couple more poison types that we missed on other rounds. And as our 1%, we get the final legendary bird, Moltres, who's setting this entire area on fire, so let's get out of here and head over to the yellow flowers to grab Entei. Despite this being 3 separate 1% encounters, it was done pretty quickly. 45 minutes on to Snowbell City. Oh yeah, I also threw all 3 of my rivals off a bridge, because that's what the X and Y rivals really deserve. Try to go into the 8th gym, but it's being blocked off by his gym trainer guide. He has gone to the Pokemon village to take care of some sick Pokemon. So we head over to Route 20 to grab some more encounters. In the forest here, I capture a Behem, Leavanny, and I run into a Xerneas, that's 1% and that I already have, which is not too great. Since Yveltal is also in this woods, I would have rather had him, but he's only available in the red flowers, so let's check out where they are. I find a horde of Noctowls and Zatus, which I capture, Shiftry, Shiny Shiftry, Sharam, wait, Shiny Shiftry? And straight after that, the Bird of Doom shows up too. I honestly can't believe that I'm having this much luck. Personally, I've also never used Yveltal, and I don't think I'm gonna do so in this run either. But he is definitely a hella fly guy. Reach the Pokemon village and run into Wulfric, the man with the coolest name that has ever existed in any Pokemon game. But that's not why we're here. We're here to check the trash cans for Spiritombs and Deoxyses. And while I was busy with these 2 encounters, I also added Giratina and Darkrai so that all of the trash encounters are out of the way. One of my very first encounters in Pokemon Village was actually Reshiram, which means that Zekrom must have been close by. With those 2 out of the way, I could leave Pokemon Village because I only had to come back for the Latios and Latias Horde encounter. And now it's time to go back to the 60s because we're going to the Disco Gym. I didn't take Wulfric for a funky guy, but turns out appearance isn't everything. It doesn't mean, however, we're going to spare him because it's time to take him out. We start out with my Salamence, which was definitely not a good pick to take into this gym, against his Mamoswine. I'm able to take it out with 2 outrages, but I do get hit with an Ice Shard, and in the end, the hail damage takes me out, as this fight has permanent hail up. I throw my Hawlucha out against his next Pokemon Weavile and obviously go for the high jump kick to kill. Kyogre electrocutes Santa's little helper, Durum gets high jump kicked by my Luchador, while Volcanion takes down his Polar Bear and also does a lot of damage with Overheat on his last Pokemon Mega Abomasnow. After that, I just bring in Kyogre and use Ice Beam to clear it up. With my final gym badge in hand, we can finally say that we have completed the gym challenge with around 86 hours on the clock, which means we're going to have to race to get these final few challenges off the board. We go to the final Route 21, have a ton of Pokemon here in the purple and red flowers, and also run into the one and only God Arceus. That's right, God has not been hiding in heaven, he's been hiding down here in between the flowers. So we pick him up, and with his good fortune, we're ready to take on Victory Road. In Victory Road itself, there's really not that much we have to pick up anymore. Any Electros, stupid Regigigas that we don't care about. Oh, and we have to defeat about 15 trainers here that all have very good and competitive teams, and if you lose against them, you have to go through the entire Victory Road again, which makes you lose a lot of time. No, I didn't get frustrated because I had to go back 10 times. Let's just take on Serena and pretend this never happened. Did you think our very last showdown together was going to come down to the wire? Because it really didn't. Salamence outrages Meowstic, while Kyogre thunders Vaporeon. Weavile crashes on Zebstrika, while Hawlucha brave birds through Landorus. The Volcanion takes on the last 2 Pokemon, Delphox with Steam Eruption and Mega Audino with Steam Eruption and Overheat. Serena is sad that she lost the battle, but also proud that her best friend is going to win the Pokemon League. So let's not let her down and make our way up to the beautiful Indigo Plateau. As I personally feel the designers outdid themselves with this league. It's one of the most beautiful ones out there. Definitely the Elite Four member changes out of this world. And we're ready to take on the very first Elite Four member, Malva, with 94 hours on the clock. Only 6 more remaining to take on the Elite Four, get a team of 100, and complete the Pokedex. Can we do it? Let's find out together. And I think you can kind of guess what happened here. I just used Kyogre and Volcanion to just wipe her entire team out with Oceans. So yeah, that's basically what happened here. Our second opponent is Seabolt, the Water-type master. Is my Kyogre going to be able to stand up to many of its brethren? Let's see. Well, the first 2 matchups went well. I took down Politoed with Thunder and the Imposter Kyogre too. Weavile punished his Starmie while Salamence took care of the water-fighting type Samurott. Another Imposter shows up, this time it's Swampert. Luckily this is not as mega, which means we can kick it from high up in the sky. And the last one, Mega Blastoise, falls to a Thunder from Kyogre and a Steam Eruption from my walking volcano. Malva was actually insanely easy though. I killed everything with Salamence and Weavile. Outrage with Moxie was so clutch in this fight, and Icicle Crash on Serperior and Altaria really did the job just like that. So I guess we're on to the final one already? Let's battle Wikstrom. Starts out with a Cofagrigus, which is now a Steel Ghost type, so we use a Surf combined with Overheat to take it out easily. We tank a Wild Charge from the next Pokemon Klinklang, and then also take it out with an Overheat, even at -2 attack. We do go down to the Sandstorm damage in the same turn, which means Hawlucha comes back out. But he's only able to take down Empoleon before also biting the dust, so I bring in Kyogre to get rid of the pesky Sandstorm, and that's when I do it, baby. I hit him with the Hydro Pump just like his Mega Metagross. His Genesect might have been able to take me out, but my Weavile can only hit one Icicle Crash before getting taken out by an Iron Head. So I bring in my very own Mega, Gyarados, for his very first battle, that is. And that's when we finish it with one final waterfall, which means it's time to take the final elevator up to the champions room and challenge Diantha. And it goes a bit like this. Hawlucha high jump kicks Klefki twice. Despite taking a Thunder Wave and a Moonblast, is still standing when Rotom comes out. So I let myself go down and crash it into the ground with Weavile. I kill his Illusion Zoroark with a Fly and a Fire Frank from Salamence, but if I would have known that this was our actual Zoroark, I would have just taken it out with a single Outrage, because now Keldeo finishes me off with an Icy Wind. Kyogre then thunders the little horse out of here, and there is only 2 more Pokemon left, Entei and Diancie. If you guessed Steam Eruption from Volcanion, you were right. And just like that, we have become champion of Pokemon Ancestral X with 95 hours on the clock. While we get crowned in the ceremony across everybody, the homeless man that's been haunting us for our entire journey shows up again and demands a battle, because Diantha wasn't the final boss. This guy is. So we grant his wish and clash with each other. He starts off with a drought-setting Torkoal, so I countered that by sending in Kyogre, putting up a Drizzle, and Hydro Pumping. His Dragon Dancing Zygarde gets put back into the Ice Age with Ice Beam, we thunder his Kabutops without any problem too. Volcanion Steam Eruptions his Registeel out of here, while Gyarados takes care of Sigilyph with a Crunch. And his last Pokemon is the one with the biggest base total ever, Mega Rayquaza. It's even able to overpower my Salamence, but after that it's no match for my priority Weavile. And with that, we have defeated the final hurdle of the battle gauntlet that is Pokemon Ancestral X. But we're not done with the game yet, despite the credits rolling already. We spawn back into our house and our mom tells me that Professor Sycamore is looking for me, so we head over to Lumio City, go to the train station, and get our Pokedex upgraded to the National Dex. Don't really know why they did this at the start already, because this is a catch-em-all game. We also get a pass to take the train to Kiloot City, but there really wasn't all that much over there except for the Battle Mansion, but that's not something I'm concerned with right now. I want to get my challenges done. So you know what time it is, baby. I evolved everything that was left in my boxes, meaning that it was just down to those special 5% horde encounters from legendaries and mythicals. The clock is ticking as I head over to my victims, Yuxi, Azelf, and Mesprit. After capturing those, I head over to round number 2 and grab Mew here. In the same forest where we encountered Celebi at the start of the game, we're back at it again, capturing them this time, but also running into another shiny Larvesta, bringing up our shiny total even more. And you're never going to believe what happened on round 3. we got a shiny Jirachi of all things. Man, do I love horde encounters. And shiny Jirachi is just so cute. We have no time to waste because on route number 22, we grab Cresselia. I'm really glad this guy is in the roamer now. On route 5, we captured the victory Pokemon Victini, and victory is almost in sight because in the Azure Bay we find Manaphy, and shortly after Landorus showed up to the party too. We also go back to route 20 to grab the last of this box trio, Zygarde. And in the Pokemon Village we grab the Eon duo Latios and Latias. Just next to the Pokemon Village there is an unknown dungeon with a Mewtwo in it. Instead of hunting for its 1% encounter, I decided to just grab it over here, which makes it a lot faster. If this wasn't the final encounter of the run, there were 2 more Pokemon remaining, but before I found those, I ran into another shiny. Mandibuzz this time. I would have loved for it to be Braviary, but I'll take this one last offering of peace, because now it's time to capture the god of space and time, Dialga and Palkia. Could there be a better duo to end this catching spree on? I personally don't think so. With 721 Pokemon registered in my Pokedex, I headed to Professor Sycamore's lab and showed him my progress. He was baffled with the amount of Pokemon I had captured and rewarded me with a shiny charm and the completion of the Pokedex. Did I manage to do that inside of the time period? Well, let's find out. 98 hours and 51 minutes. Just in time. But is there enough time to buy my final outfit and complete the last challenge? I rushed over to the clothes store, but they wouldn't let me in because I didn't have enough style. So I went around the city, dining in every single chic restaurant I could find, traveling around with cabs, getting a haircut that looked honestly worse than what I had before. And I even worked in a hotel as a receptionist and a room service cleaner. With all of those jobs under our belt, they would finally let me into the store and buy the most expensive outfit out there. But alas, it was too late. The clock is standing on 101 hours and 24 minutes. It took too long. Despite looking dripped out, I still felt a sense of emptiness as I wasn't able to complete my final challenge. Maybe next time we'll be able to complete them all.